Look at that. Isn't that a great layout? You son of a gun.
This campaign is no good.
No good!
Darren and Larry, the original Mad Men on Bewitched.
Hi, I'm John Mallison. Welcome to Connect with Me. Today we're talking arts and culture. We're going to talk about this book. It's called Griefland. It's written by a local person. Her name is Armen Bacon. She's one of the co-authors along with Nancy Miller. We're going to talk about what Griefland is all about. Your phone calls are important. 265-4331. We're live on Comcast from Ventura TV. And welcome back to the program. A difficult show and a difficult topic to talk about this morning here on Connect with Me on Me TV Fresno. We're going to be talking about this book. It's called Griefland. It's written by Armen Bacon and Nancy Miller. Those are two local people. We'll get into what they're doing now and what their background is. But basically the story is this. Back in 2004, Armen's son Alex died of a drug overdose. Nancy Miller's daughter Rachel also died of a drug overdose. They didn't know each other at the time, but somehow they connected on the internet. And Armen Bacon sent Nancy Miller an email. That was many moons ago. They met in person, they shared their stories, and that's what this book is all about. Let's put the cover up on the screen, you can see it. Basically, it's not a book about how their children died. They came together to share their grief, to share their misery, their heartbreak, their absolute disbelief. Their worlds had just fallen apart. They had just come apart at the seams when both of their children died of drug overdoses. Nobody knows or can even imagine, no parent can imagine unless they went through it. And so this was very therapeutic for both of them, I would imagine. We'll ask Armen about it, to write a book about themselves and what grief they're going through. It's not a book about how their children died, not at all. It's about living day to day, hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second, knowing that one of your family members, your son, your daughter, is no longer going to be with you. It's just living with the pain and the agony of losing a child. Live in our studio right now is Armen Bacon. She has worked for the Fresno County Office of Education for more than 20 years. She also writes a column in the Fresno Bee, but perhaps her most inspirational and important work is this book right here. It's called Griefland. No one knows what it's like to lose a child unless you've lost one. 265-4331 is the number. Call in and get inspired. Back in a moment.
It's time to play the Hi Bob game. Simply watch the Bob.
Howard, I wanted to hear what that lady said.
As I was saying, simply watch the Bob Newhart show and count how many times people say Hi Bob.
Well, why don't we start things off?
Hi, Bob. Hi, Bob. Hi, Bob. Hi, Bob. Hi, Bob. Wakey, wakey, England, wakey.
Sorry, try again.
Darn it.
Everybody loves the Hi Bob game.
This is the greatest game I've ever seen.
Weeknights at 10:30, 9:30 Central on Me TV.
I also want to mention before we get into the book called Griefland that later on in the program toward the tail end, we're going to lighten up the subject a little bit and show you the two World Series trophies won by the San Francisco Giants, 2010 and 2012. They passed through Fresno at Chancey Park yesterday, and Ara Kachatourian and myself, of course, we had a chance to go over there and talk to some people and look at those beautiful trophies. But right now, I want to talk about this book that's called Griefland. Many of you out there in the audience probably know that my daughter several years ago came very close to dying of E. coli bacteria that she contracted at the big Fresno fair. Well, she survived, but Armen Bacon is here. Your son did not survive.
No.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
For your loss and your grief. And this book here, you know, I've read it twice, stayed up half the night last night reading it again.
Wow.
And it's heart-wrenching. It's really difficult to get through it without just breaking out and crying.
Well, you know, when we lost, you know, when we received that call that no parent can even imagine receiving, it sent us into another world. Imagine being crash landing, being hijacked on an airplane, and all of a sudden landing in a foreign country where you don't know the terrain, you don't know the customs, there's no language, you have no baggage, you're without a passport, and you're stark naked. That's what it felt like. And, you know, John, sadly, I mean, there was very little out there to help us navigate this terrain. And when I met Nancy, we were both writers, and we decided to write about the day-to-day agony we were experiencing.
Why?
Well, first of all, words, because both of us are writers, words became our oxygen. There is no language for grief. I mean, we just shook hands and you said, "I'm so sorry for your loss." That phrase, along with the deepest sympathies, our hearts are aching for you, that's about the extent of the language our culture has for the grief-stricken. We don't know what to do. We don't know what to say. And so Nancy and I decided we wanted to create that language.
All right, let's take a phone call here real quick. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me with Armen Bacon. How are you?
I'm doing good, and I wish I could hear your show. That someone didn't turn on the volume.
Okay. Well, listen, do you have a question for Armen real quick?
Armen, she's a writer.
Yeah, she's a writer, and she wrote a book called Griefland about the death of her son Alex, who overdosed on drugs, and her co-author is Nancy Miller. Her daughter also died of a drug overdose.
Wow. You know, I'll just make a statement, because I didn't really hear no one can hear what you guys are already talking about. But I'll make a statement that, you know, we're made for addiction. I mean, like, I'm addicted to air, I'm addicted to water, I'm addicted to all kinds of things. And when we're not questing for our gifts or our specialties, like you're a newscaster and you're very good, and if you weren't doing that, you might get addicted to the wrong stuff. And so that's kind of like a lot of when we don't teach our children that. You know, my dad told me when I was really young. He goes, if you could do any drug or any alcohol you want, but if you abuse one, you lose your right to do all of them.
Yeah.
And so I'll just leave those messages with you.
Thank you for the call. Okay, thank you very much. I guess he's talking about drug addiction,
Yes.
alcohol addiction. We're all addicted to something, I guess. But
Yes.
I want to talk to you a little bit about that. But let's kind of focus on this book a little bit, because last night, just reading the whole book, one thing stuck out more than anything else, and that was you said in the book, somewhere in the book, that after this happened, you no longer felt comfortable within your own skin.
Yes.
Remember writing that?
Oh, I absolutely do.
Can you expand on that, please?
Yeah, you know, people who know me know that I'm a very outgoing person. I'm a public speaker. I have, you know, a career, a family. I'm a community activist. And all of a sudden, when grief hits you, you wake up, you feel like I felt like a stranger in my own skin. I couldn't finish sentences. There were physiological side effects. I broke out in hives. I had headaches. I felt like I was standing outside of myself, looking down on this poor woman and really not knowing what to do. There was a paralysis that came with it, a brain damage. My memory was shot. And nobody wrote about that. No, you know, and so there are moments when I felt like I was going insane. And when I met Nancy and we started comparing notes about what this journey felt like, we realized that, no, this is the condition of grief. This is what grief does to the human soul and the physical body. And we wanted to navigate. We believed that by writing through the pain, by shaking hands with our grief, that it would either melt us or recreate us and illuminate us. And, you know, today I'm able to finish my sentences. I'm able to smile again. But had it not been for this writing journey and the comfort of the friendship between me and Nancy, I'm not sure that I would have landed on the other side of this.
As I said, this book is not about your son, Alex. It's not about Nancy's daughter, Rachel. It's about you and Nancy navigating through this Griefland, what you call
Yes.
Griefland, from the time that your son and her daughter died until now.
Yes.
Grief, and it's how you get through day-to-day life, minute by minute, second by second.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. And
why did you write the book about that and not your son?
Well, because quite honestly, there was nothing on the shelves. We went to bookstores. You look for resources because you know you need help. And there was lots on the bookshelves about losing a spouse or losing aging parents, but there was really nothing that addressed the grief of losing a child. And I think the one thing that has been written is that losing a child trumps everything else, because you do expect that your parents will probably die before you, but it's unthinkable to imagine losing your child. And so Joan Didion had written about losing her husband. C.S. Lewis wrote a beautiful book about losing his wife, but there was nothing on the shelves about a parent's grief. And so we decided to document the journey word for word, and
Almost like a diary form.
yes, and the byproduct of all that was, first of all, we both had day jobs. The world wants you back in full force, so we were getting up in the morning and going to work. Nancy lectured at the university, and I worked for the county office, and we both had very public kinds of jobs. And we would go home at the end of the day, the grief still alive and well, and we would write about the experience of getting through our day. And what happened over time is we forged this magical friendship. And I think one of the lessons we learned is that you don't need to walk this journey by yourself, that grabbing onto somebody's hand can help that darkness, can shed some light on that dark journey. And so the power of our friendship really made a difference.
We got to take a break, Armen.
Okay.
We're talking with Armen Bacon here. She wrote a book with Nancy Miller. She co-wrote it. It's called Griefland, about Armen's son and Nancy's daughter. They both died of drug overdoses. Your calls are important, 265-4331. We're back in a moment with Connect with Me right after a brief timeout.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean Dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
We're back with Armen Bacon, and her book is called Griefland, and she wrote it not too long ago with Nancy Miller. Let me ask you something before we get into talking about your son. The book has helped you in a certain way. Mm-hmm. I can tell it's helped you enormously, but there's still that empty feeling, that grief that never goes away. Isn't that right?
Well, what I share with people is,
no matter how much you write,
exactly.
no matter how much you talk about it, it's not going to bring your son back. Nancy's daughter won't be coming back. So there's still that empty feeling, right?
You learn over time, and writing the book helped us learn how to walk through life with this gigantic crack running down the middle of us.
You learn how to live with it?
And you learn that, first of all, the world wants and needs you, that you have to get up in the morning. And there are those people who stop living. Their life absolutely ceases because they don't know how to manage the grief, because they don't know what to do. It's a loss. It's an unthinkable, unbearable loss. We made the decision to walk through that fire, and we were determined to get to the other side in hopes that we could share some strategies with others. We could forge a community where it's okay to grieve out loud. The other thing our culture does is we wear that mask. We ask people to get back into the throes of life, and there are times when I have to look people in the eye and say, I'm having a bad day, I need some space, I need my time, I need to sit still because my heart aches right now. And so we tried to, in our book, create a language where we give people permission to grieve.
Let's take a call. Good morning, you're on Connect with Me. How are you?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes?
Go ahead. You're on the air.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about. There's no audio.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that. Well, we're talking about...
I want to talk to John.
Yeah, well, we're talking about Griefland right now. It's a book that's written by Armen and Nancy Miller, and both of their children died of drug overdoses. So if you go to your local book, where can they buy this book?
The book is available at Petunia's Place and at Barnes & Noble and on Amazon.
All right. So do you have a question for Armen?
Well, yesterday's show, you said you're going to have a personal trainer on here.
Yeah, well, right now we're kind of short on time. So do you have a question for Armen?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I want to
Okay.
talk.
Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. All right. Let's continue then. Let's talk about your son a little bit.
Okay.
And how old was he? 22?
He was 22.
Okay.
But I guess what I would want listeners to know is that Alex was a child. From the time he was an infant, he had insatiable curiosity, and he was always looking outside of things and wanted more information. And he was a very creative.
He was into bugs, huh?
He was into bugs, insects. He loved creepy crawlers, insects, dogs. He loved life, and he was a very curious child.
Did you know that he was addicted?
Eventually, yes. But
how did you find out?
But there were signals. I noticed subtle changes in his personality when he was from middle school to high school. I noticed him getting more quiet. He had been a very outgoing, very vibrant child. Again, very curious, and he became more quiet to himself. And a lot of friends, even his doctors, said this is kind of that stage of adolescence when there are those kinds of subtle changes.
How old was he when you noticed that?
Oh, I would say 14, 15. I really started feeling in my gut that something was horribly wrong. You know, I think a mom knows, a parent knows. And, but we were meeting with the schools and with doctors, and everybody was saying he was fine. Everybody was saying this is just that transition where his body is changing, his brain is processing new information, he's turning from a child into a young adult, and loosen your grip a little bit. You're being too controlling.
Yes.
And you know, as a parent, you worry. And then little by little, I started finding other clues.
There was a portion in the book that I was reading last night that kind of struck me too a little bit, where you were maybe doubting yourself. You had some self-doubt about, should I have done more? Why didn't I do more? Why didn't I get more involved?
Well, you know, Nancy and I had those conversations in the middle of the night throughout our book writing process.
Right.
And between us, I think we tried everything short of kidnapping our children and taking them off to some foreign island and isolating them. But, you know, that's not real.
Do you feel like you did enough? Or do you feel within yourself that you could have done more?
You know, I think we did the best we could at the time. The more I read now, the more information I have. I think a parent has to be an advocate for their child. I think you have to keep hunting until you find the right treatment. And there's still such mystery. At the time, Alex was experimenting with OxyContin. We know a lot more now than we did then. Then we didn't even know what it was.
What other drugs was he involved with besides that? Was it heroin or?
No,
Not
Alex
heroin.
never used heroin, but you know, he started with over-the-counter cough medicines and allergy medicines, the stuff that now in the pharmacy is behind the counter. Because now we know better. But at the time, you could get the cough medicines, the stuff that has dangerous pharmacological components, you could get it off the counter, and it was sold to young people. But he shifted from that to marijuana, and then later eventually prescription drugs.
But having guilt as a parent is a natural thing. I mean, when I took my daughter to the petting zoo at the Fresno County Fair, I mean, even to this day, years later, I ask myself, why did I do that?
Yes.
You know, why didn't I just stop myself and say, no, you're not going? And so I may live with that for the rest of my life. So that's why I asked that question about guilt, because that's something that I don't think, you know, I think it kind of stays there. It never really goes.
Well, look at
You could have done everything humanly possible, and it still would have happened.
Yes, and you know, we have a very strong nuclear family. We raise our children, in my personal opinion, I mean, we raised our children to give them wings so that they could spread those wings and fly and explore the world around them.
Sure.
And we grew up at a time when the world was very, very safe. And, you know, our children's world is a little different now.
Yeah.
But holding on, not letting them go out, not letting them be active in school, not letting them
That's not good
explore
either.
in the community, that's not good either. That's not
No.
a solution. You can't
That's
do
not
that.
normal.
No. So, you know, I think as parents, we all do the best we can.
Yeah.
And when we notice something is not right, we intervene. And that's what we did.
You know what? You're a great mother.
Thank
I'm
you.
sure you're a great wife.
Thank you.
So, no guilt.
Thank you.
All right. Armen Bacon is our guest. Griefland is the book. She wrote it with Nancy Miller. We're going to be back here on Connect with Me, and also the World Series trophies. We'll show you those in just a moment.
I'm Trip Douglas.
Welcome home and stuff.
And I'm Ernie Douglas.
James Bond, Secret Agent 007.
And we're here to tell you.
Ernie!
Just a minute, Uncle Charlie.
Come on, Ernie, you're gonna be late for school.
We're doing a promo for Me TV and Jump.
Ernie, Trip.
Yes, Dad.
Come here a minute, will you?
We'll be down in a minute. As I was saying. Tramp, be quiet. Tramp?
Hey, have you guys seen Robbie? Oh, hi, I'm Katie Douglas.
We're my three sons.
Ernie, I had to learn about women like Melissa through long, tough experience.
Let me make my own mistakes. They're half the fun. And one daughter-in-law.
Thanks. Now I really feel like one of the family.
Watch me on Me TV.
You think girls are just boys' gift wrap.
Weekday mornings at 7, 6 Central on Me TV.
It's real neat.
And we're back. Griefland is the name of the book. It's written by Armen Bacon of Fresno and Nancy Miller. Both of their children died of drug overdoses. Armen's son Alex, Nancy's daughter Rachel. Of course, Nancy worked at Fresno City College. She worked at Fresno State. Armen Bacon has been working at the Fresno County Office of Education for many, many moons, my friend. It's been a long time. Only 20 years,
20
right?
years.
Yeah, you look beautiful,
20
by the
great
way.
years. Thank
You look
you.
great for 39.
Thank you. I like that. Thank you.
But getting back to your son now, Nancy Miller, her daughter Rachel, does she share a similar story? I know her daughter died, like your son
Yes.
died, obviously of a drug overdose. That's the similarity. But did it go down in a similar fashion?
There were differences, but you know, very similar. Loving family, you know, caring parents.
She knew something was wrong, but didn't quite know what it was.
Yes, and her daughter, you know, was in treatment and doing well, and you know, had gone away to Utah, was in a special program, and so I mean, I think both of our families were trying to get the best help possible for our children, but at the end of the day, it wasn't enough, and we'll never have those answers, and I guess, you know, you can't continue to beat yourself up forever.
That is Rachel, Nancy's daughter, and let's put a picture up of Alex as well, your son, who passed away, and there he is. How old was he there in that picture, by the way?
He was about, I think, 20 in that picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great looking kid. Was he into sports at all?
Handsome. No, he was not an athlete. Although he loved skateboarding, he was a computer wizard. Loved programming and loved animals and loved our family. Had just lots of friends and was a great kid.
Yeah. Now, you met Nancy in 2009, several years after your son passed away.
Yes.
And you met somehow on the internet, and you wrote her an email.
Yes.
You want to read a portion of that email?
Sure.
It's in your book. Very heart-wrenching, by the way.
Well, first let me just say that a mutual friend of ours from Fresno State called me over Christmas vacation and said, oh my gosh, we have a colleague in our department whose daughter died on Christmas Day, and we don't know what to do. We want to reach out, but we don't know what to do.
This was this past year? Here?
No.
Oh.
In
2000. In 2009, and it happened to be Nancy.
Yes.
Okay.
And she said, would you connect with her? And I said, of course I would. And
Yeah.
so I wrote her an email, and I will happily read that to you. And it was written on January 13th of 2009. Nancy, my name is Armen. We have a friend, Anne, in common. She emailed me about the death of your daughter, Rachel. I'm wondering if we might meet somewhere. Even though I don't know you, I feel an urge to wrap my arms around you. We can talk about anything you want or sit in silence. I promise we will just be two women coming together in this moment of darkness, a place I've come to call Griefland. I've been living here for 4 years, so I'll show you around. We can take a quiet walk, just the two of us.
Right. Let's put up the pictures of your son and also Rachel. Your son Alex died of a drug overdose in 2004. Rachel passed away of a drug overdose when? What year?
In 2008, Christmas Day.
2008. Okay, so a few years after your son, but very similar situations. And this book now is probably helping many people
yes,
we get through the similar grief process. Probably another reason why you wrote the book, to help others.
Well, we initially wrote it to stay alive ourselves.
Right.
But our hope was that in sharing the journey, we could reach out to others. And we wrote nonstop for one entire year. We wrote in the middle of the night, and we created 1,500 pages of email communications. And from that, we created 27 chapters in our book.
Yeah.
And now we have a website. We just recorded an audio book.
What's the website, real quick?
It's www.griefland.com.
Okay.
And incredible people are sharing their stories, and reaching out with us to talk about their grief journeys.
Quickly, in 30 seconds, can you tell us, have you ever asked yourself the question, why?
I think I ask myself that question every day.
Even now.
But you know what? We're living in this era of loss. People are losing parents. They're losing friends, colleagues. Some, like us, are losing children. It's the human condition. None of us are exempt to loss. And
Armen, we're running short on time, but come back.
Thank
Would you,
you,
please?
John.
I appreciate
Of course
you
I
being
will.
here. Beautiful lady, and
Thank
keep up
you.
the good work and
Thanks
the inspiration
so much.
to others who've gone through similar processes.
Thank you.
All right, Armen Bacon, our guest today. The book, by the way, is Griefland. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. Anyway, I want to talk about the World Series trophies quick. Before we go, let's go to the videotape. Yesterday they were at Chinchansey Park, the 2010 World Series trophy, and the 2012 World Series trophy. And are we going to see that? Yes, we are. Look at that. The flags of all of the Major League Baseball teams, of course. And you know, each and every year, every time that a team wins a World Series, Tiffany and Company makes a new World Series trophy for that specific year and that specific team. The one for 2012 has yet to be engraved. Of course, the one a couple of years ago is already engraved. Two beautiful trophies. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people passed through Chinchansey Park yesterday just to have their photos snapped with the trophies in hand. Both of them arm in arm. 2 out of the last 3 years, the Giants have won the World Series. Look at that line outside Chinchansey Park. Amazing. We talked to Bobby Baxa of the San Francisco Giants about those trophies. Yeah, what's the purpose of the tour?
Purpose of the tour is allow fans to take photos with the two trophies right here. We want to celebrate these two championships with our fans.
So what's the big deal? It's only a couple of trophies.
A lot of work, a lot of love, a lot of fan support, a lot of sweat and tears by the boys. So
a lot of Giants fans here in the Valley.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, that's one of the hardest things to win. So when we do win it, it's important to support your team.
What are you here for?
To see the trophies.
Oh, why?
Because my dad promised me that he will let me see the trophies today.
What do you want to see them for?
So I could show my grandma and grandpa.
What about you?
I don't know.
You're just here, huh? That's a nice Giants hat. You turn around so we can see that nice Giants T-shirt there. Where'd you get that?
I got it. This is my brother's shirt. I just had to wear it.
Beautiful little kids there wearing their San Francisco Giants paraphernalia. Of course, the World Series trophies now go on to Reedley later today at 2 o'clock, and they'll be in Sanger at Sanger High School at 6 p.m. My great thanks to Armen Bacon for the book, Griefland. Buy it at Barnes & Noble. It's less than 200 pages. You can read it in 2 hours and then read it again. Back tomorrow. See you then. If it's Connect with Me, you must be watching Me TV.